Hi, welcome back to PSL Living. I'm Jenny Newell. Suncoast Mental Health Center is hosting an event in November called Finding Peace Amid the Chaos. Chief Executive Officer Art Ciasca is here to tell us more about that upcoming event in November. But first, can we talk a little bit about Suncoast Mental Health Center and what services you all offer to the public?
Oh, definitely. Suncoast Mental Health Center is an organization that's been around since 1998, and we are a 501c3 organization, meaning we're not-for-profit, and we're actually in St. Lucie, Indian River, Okeechobee, and Martin counties. And what we do is, well, we started out working with children who have behavioral or mental health issues. And in the last 3 or 4 years, we've actually expanded our services to include adults. There are a lot of adults also struggling with mental health issues these days. You know, but when we're thinking about children first, just very briefly, a little bit of information about children. 1 in 5 children between the ages of 8 and 18 have a mental health disorder that's severe enough to cause a significant impairment in their day-to-day lives.
Oh, wow.
1 in 5. And when you think about where is their day-to-day lives, it's usually in school. So you think of, okay, how does that play out if a child has a mental health disorder that's untreated or undertreated? It usually means they're going to fail more classes, they're going to miss more days of school, they're going to earn a lower grade point average, and they're going to be retained at grade level more than kids with any other disability. So we strongly believe that early detection, identification, and treatment of mental health disorders is so important. So we started out working with the children, but now we're working with adults also.
Is that something, back to the children, is that something that their parents are sort of seeing, and then they sort of reach out to you and say, hey, I think we may have an issue here?
You know, oftentimes it is the parents, but our largest referral source actually is in the 4 counties is St. Lucie County Schools.
Okay.
You know, the teachers, the guidance counselors, the ESE specialists, you know, they're noticing these behaviors.
Okay.
And so you think about a child, again, in a learning environment, trying to be successful, but having these mental health issues or behavioral issues, you know, and that could include ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADD, depression, anxiety, just to name a few that they might have.
Does that come from the gene pool? I mean, is it sort of from their environment that they sort of develop these sort of issues, or are they born with them?
You know, oftentimes it can be a genetic thing, but there are times it can be environmental. One of the issues that some children may have is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And a lot of times
children have that.
Yeah, a lot of times when we hear that term, we think of veterans.
Yes.
You know, because certainly going over to some of the horrors that they witness, you know, overseas, you know, in wars and such, could cause PTSD. But children, and I'm going to give a shout out actually to a totally different organization on this that's really helping with kids, is here locally in Port St. Lucie, we have the Inner Truth Project with Mindy Federman. And she's actually working with a lot of people who were victims of sexual assault or abuse as children, you know, and sometimes it really doesn't kind of manifest some of the symptoms until they become adults. But those children can suffer from PTSD, either from sexual assault or abuse, or witnessing domestic violence occurring in the home.
Oh my! So what kinds of programs do you have? Kids can come to you to get treatment or help with these issues? Yeah,
one of the nice things about Suncoast Mental Health Center is that we're community-based, meaning our mental health therapists will actually go into the homes, we'll go into the schools, but we also have offices too in the 4 counties where people can come in for office visits. And if psychiatric care is indicated, you know, they would have to come into the office to visit with the psychiatrist or psychiatric nurse practitioner.
And then these same services are offered for adults as well?
They are, and you know, the one service I didn't mention is something called targeted case management, and that's where we have case managers linking the child or families to services they might need in the community. Now, targeted case management, we do provide for children. We do not provide that service for adults. For adults, we do provide the therapy, mental health therapy, and or psychiatric services, again, if that's indicated.
Now, we mentioned in the beginning that there's an annual event that's coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're so excited. This is our second time doing this event, and we're going to do it every year. And it's called Finding Peace Amid the Chaos. And this is an event we did last November, and we brought in the youngest sister of Nicole Brown Simpson. Her name is Tanya Brown. And we all remember the O.J. Nicole thing from 21 years ago now, believe it or not. But Tanya was 22 or 23 at the time that occurred. And Tanya lost some other close friends, and she went into a very deep depression, which resulted in a suicide attempt and an inpatient psychiatric hospitalization. She recovered beautifully and went on to go get her master's degree, and she's an author, and she speaks around the country about her depression, her suicide attempt, but her wonderful recovery. So the name of the event, Finding Peace Amid the Chaos, actually comes from the name of Tanya Brown's book, Finding Peace Amid the Chaos, My Escape from Depression and Suicide. And we had asked Tanya if we could call our event that every year in honor of her, no matter who the speaker was or what the mental health issue we're addressing is. And Tanya graciously said yes.
That's wonderful.
So this year, we're so excited about this lady we're bringing in. Her name is Kathy Cronkite, and she is the daughter of Walter Cronkite. And she also suffered from a very deep depression. It was interesting, it was that she read an article by Mike Wallace from 60 Minutes, where he disclosed about the depression that he suffered from.
Really?
And it was then that she decided that she would get some help. She had kind of a troubled youth. You think of Kathy Cronkite being the daughter of Walter Cronkite, you have every advantage in life growing up. And she did have every advantage, but she also suffered from depression. And Kathy Cronkite makes the point, this is a medical condition. And just telling somebody, you know, what do you have to be depressed about? Get over it. You know, you have a good job, you have a good family, a good home. Get over it. Pick yourself, you know, doesn't work. Just as if you were to tell somebody with cancer, why do you have cancer? Get over it. You know, so her message is, this is a medical condition, help is available, and she talks about her wonderful recovery also. And she's written a book called On the Edge of Darkness, and in the book she talks about her depression and depression, but she also interviews Mike Wallace, Kitty Dukakis, Dick Clark, Joan Rivers, Rod Steiger, to name a few, people who also battled with depression.
Oh my.
And so she goes around the country also telling her story. She is a passionate mental health advocate, and she appeared on the Today Show a few years back, and after she appeared, the National Institute of Mental Health received 12,000 calls to their toll-free number in a 3-hour period because of Kathy Cronkite's passion and advocacy for getting help for those who need it.
That's great. That's great. And you've got her, and she's coming. She's coming on Friday, November 13th and Saturday, November 14th. She's got 2 different locations and dates.
She does. And on Friday, November 13th, she'll be speaking up in Vero Beach at Grand Harbor, and it is a dinner. And then the very next day, Saturday, November 14th, she'll be speaking at Harbor Ridge, right on the St. Lucie County, Martin County line there. And that is a luncheon. So we're so excited to have her here. I would encourage people, go on YouTube if you have interest, and just, you know, search for Kathy Cronkite. And there's a 2-minute short video that every word she says to me is just magic, and she's so in line with our message of, we have to educate people, we have to get people to accept it's a medical condition, and there is help available. So it's all about hope and help and recovery.
That's great. I'm so glad that she's partnering with you all. It looks like Friday there's a cost of $125 per person for dinner, and then on Saturday it's $75 per person for luncheon.
That is correct. Yeah, we have a couple of wonderful co-chairs, particularly for Harbor Ridge, Debbie Denning, very well known in this area, and Jennifer Strawn. There are 2 co-chairs, and they're going to make it just a great event. And then also Jane Rowley is doing the auction at the end to help try to raise a few bucks.
Great. Now, if anybody, I imagine you have to buy tickets in advance.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the best way for people to do that?
The website is suncoastmentalhealth.org, all one word, suncoastmentalhealth.org. Or if you're a Facebooker, you can go on there, and Suncoast Mental Health Center, you can find us. Or people can certainly call me. My office is in Fort Pierce, and I'm at 489-4726.
Okay, perfect. So that's for event information. If people are having issues or concerns either with themselves, with their children, they can contact those same resources as well?
Exactly. Yeah, believe me, if people feel they need help or they have have a child that does that 489-4726, we can get you started if you need that.
Okay, perfect. And one last time, Finding Peace Amid the Chaos is on Friday, November 13th, and also Saturday, November 14th. People can go to the website or your Facebook page and get information from those resources as well.
Exactly.
Right. All right, Art Ciasca, Chief Executive Officer with Suncoast Mental Health Center. Thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jen.
Best of luck with these events.
Thank you so much.
You have to come back and let us know how it goes.
We will, definitely. Thank
Great.
you.
No problem. And we'll be right back after these messages.